Chapter 242. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's, Peng Yunxiang grew a bit irritated. Why didn't this woman follow common sense? Sensing the surrounding mercenaries' mocking stares, he knew he absolutely couldn't lose face and immediately ordered coldly, "Kowtow to me an apology right now. Otherwise, you'll have to take the consequences." Kowtow an apology? Bailey Hongzhuang's face suddenly turned icy, her expression sharp as a knife. Together, it seemed to shoot at Peng Yunxiang like lightning. "You think you're worthy?" The simple question made Peng Yunxiang's eyes light with rage. For a long time now, other cultivators in the same grade as him would always look at him in contempt. Now, even a new student dared to? "You're courting death." Spirit power surged in Peng Yunxiang's body, his tightly clenched fist shooting at Bailey Hongzhuang ruthlessly without the slightest hesitation. Seeing this scene, the other mercenaries' eyes twinkled with excitement. They didn't expect for such a good show to watch today. It seems like the beauty was out of luck. Peng Yunxiang's strength had reached the middle stage of mysterious Ian. But the instant Peng Yunxiang's fist was about to hit Bailey Hongzhuang, she suddenly moved, her hand directly gripping onto Peng Yunxiang's wrist, preventing him from attacking any further. "Pa!" A resounding snap echoed through the lobby. In this split second, time seemed to have frozen. Peng Yunxiang felt a burst of scorching hot pain. But what hurt most wasn't his face, but his heart. Everyone's eyes widened. This was really past their expectations. They hadn't thought that this peerlessly beautiful lady was actually so strong. Not only that, but even her temperament was domineering. One move, as fast as lightning. Before they could react, Bailey Hongzhuang had already strongly slapped Peng Yunxiang. In a flash, Bailey Hongzhuang's leg suddenly lashed out. Peng Yunxiang had no time to defend himself and was sent flying a few meters away. Bailey Hongzhuang looked down at Peng Yunxiang, her eyes cold and ruthless. "Wherever you scram off to, don't let me see you again. Otherwise, see if I won't break you into pieces." Peng Yunxiang stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze. When they had fought earlier, he had clearly sensed that Bailey Hongzhuang was at the middle stage of mysterious Ian. How was this possible? How could a newly enrolled student from Azure Water School possibly be at the middle stage of mysterious Ian? "Wow!" A voice and whistle broke the silence. The mercenaries stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, their eyes filled with interest. This beauty really made the heart race. "Ah, useless coward. Why don't you go scram and play in the mud? Don't come out to be a disgrace again." Everyone sneered, taking the initiative to taunt him. This guy who had just been taught a lesson really was too disgusting. The sarcastic ridicule fell into Peng Yunxiang's ears, making his already dark face even darker. He could only fiercely shout, "When Dai Yunyang comes back, you'll definitely die an ugly death." Hearing his words, Bailey Hongzhuang sneered, "So you're Dai Yunyang's dog?" He was wondering why this guy seemed to be picking a fight with her, and it turns out that he was trying to look for trouble with her in Dai Yunyang's place. "I don't know if my death will be ugly or not, but if you stay for one more second, I can guarantee that your death will be very ugly." Peng Yunxiang's face immediately changed, not daring to linger any longer, and immediately tried frantically to escape the mercenary trading union. From Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, he knew that if he really didn't leave right then and there, Bailey Hongzhuang really would have killed him. Chapter 243. Everyone sighed as their thoughts curiously wandered to Bailey Hongzhuang. With such good looks and amazing strength, how couldn't she attract attention? After what had happened, nobody else dared to disturb Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang smoothly registered as a mercenary and left the trade union. Seeing the yellow mercenary medal in her hands, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile. She was looking forward to this new mercenary life. After she was finished her business, she didn't directly leave, but instead stayed in the city to buy some stuff she might need for the missions. Living in the mountains was far different from living at home. It was a place where anything could happen. She needed to take the initiative to buy some things and prepare for a possible period of want or need. From Dongfang Yu's words, she knew that they'd start very soon. Fighting demonic beasts were the fastest way to improve their strength. After Bailey Hongzhuang returned to her room, she began to concoct some pills. Who knew what could happen during the mercenary missions? It was better to prepare some pills beforehand. The most important pill was the returning chi pill. At their current strength, the amount of spirit power in their dantian was too small. If they ran into a dangerous situation and all the spirit power in their dantian was already exhausted, they would quickly fall into extremely dangerous circumstances. Returning chi pills were Azure Water City's best-selling pill, but its price was rather expensive. Most cultivators had no way to afford it. Returning chi pills were first-rate pills, but for Bailey Hongzhuang, a pill master, it wasn't hard at all for her to refine them. Right now, she was already a second-grade pill master. There was still a gap between becoming a third-grade pill master, so making more immortality pills was very beneficial for her. Bailey Hongzhuang removed all possible distractions and focused single-heartedly on refining the pills. Co-coding immortality pills was a very delicate thing. It needed you to centralize your spirit power and pay careful attention to every tiny change to the ingredients. If there was the slightest problem, it would fail. The room was extremely quiet. Apart from the occasional crackling of the furnace from the pill ingredients, there was nothing else. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were serious as she poured her spirit power into the furnace, tightly watching over everything that happened inside. Time slowly passed by. A bang sound could be heard as Bailey Hongzhuang opened the pill furnace. Inside, a perfectly round, plump pill could be seen. The beautiful and secluded, fascinating pill fragrance pervaded the air. Just smelling it was already enough to sense the abundant spirit power inside. Bailey Hongzhuang directly loaded the pill into the porcelain bottle and took out another batch of ingredients before once again beginning to refine them. The next day, Xia Jiqing came to look for Bailey Hongzhuang. When she saw Bailey Hongzhuang concocting the pills, her smooth and round, adorable face was astonished. "Hongzhuang, you can also even refine pills?" Bailey Hongzhuang nodded faintly. "A bit. Really awesome." Xia Jiqing's heart sighed. The conditions to becoming a pill master were very strict, something ordinary people were simply incapable of accomplishing. This was also why pill masters were looked so highly upon. Bailey Hongzhuang was already so strong, and on top of that, she was actually also a pill master. It really makes her shocked. But since Bailey Hongzhuang had such high achievements with her cultivation, her pill refining skills probably weren't that good. After all, a person's energy was limited and could only empathize one field. Oh, that's right. Azure Water City has a pill master guild. If you want to turn into a first-grade pill master, you can go take the pill master examination there. Xia Jiqing smiled. Chapter 244. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brows, her phoenix eyes flashing. She actually had no idea that there was something like a pill master guild. After 1,000 years, many new organizations and guilds had popped up in Shangxian, but authentication doesn't sound too bad. I heard that Lu Qingyue is also a pill master, and not only is she very good at concocting pills, but even recently passed the second-grade pill master examination, causing many men to admire her even more. Lu Qingyue really has the skills worthy of being looked upon so highly by Azure Water School. She relied on her own power to become a special enrollment student, and is even a second-grade pill master, really great. Her beautiful, fresh and cute face sighed with emotion. Although Lu Qingyue's behavior wasn't at all cold, her strength truly was admirable. Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black pupils seemed to twinkle with stars as her lips stretched into a bewitchingly beautiful smile. Azure Water School's #1 beauty really has both looks and power. At Lu Qingyue's age, to become a second-grade pill master, her potential was truly breathtaking. But it doesn't matter. Xia Jiqing sat beside Bailey Hongzhuang, a smile on her small and delicate face. I believe that with you, Hongzhuang's ability, you can definitely overtake Lu Qingyue. Go for it. I believe in you. Xia Jiqing raised her tiny fists, animatedly conveying her trust in Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing Xia Jiqing's high expectations for her, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh. I'll go for it then. Getting Bailey Hongzhuang's assurance, Xia Jiqing's smile grew even bigger. But it then fell in a flash. Special enrollment students are so good. I heard that you're going out to learn through experience tomorrow, to complete mercenary missions? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, right? Really enviable. I have to cultivate peacefully along with everyone in the class. I want to go out and kill. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips hooked into a bright smile. Xia Jiqing's adorable face really didn't match with her violent temperament. It won't be long until you can start accepting missions too. So right now, cultivate properly. Mercenary missions were often very dangerous, so you needed to have enough strength if you wanted to carry it out. Ordinary students weren't strong enough, so Azure Water School arranged for them to first train and cultivate to improve their strength before organizing their missions once they were strong enough. I'll definitely try hard to improve, so in the future, you must train with me. I will be waiting. After you set off and take care of yourself, I'll wait for you to come back in the courtyard. All right. It was early morning. The sun slowly rose along the horizon, the first rays of sun splitting through the clouds to land on the earth. Bailey Hongzhuang stopped cultivating and finished tidying up her things before leaving the room. Dongfang Yu and the rest also came down from upstairs. Soon, everyone gathered outside the dormitory. Bai Junyu and Cui Haoyan had also come out. Today, their teams would start their missions. Cui Haoyan stared at Gong Xiaoqing. Gong Xiaoqing, why don't we have another competition again? The last time their two teams had a competition, they had lost by a meager amount. This time, they were going to turn the tables. Gong Xiaoqing's face still held that unshakable indifference, his pitch-black pupils deep and reserved. Fine. Chapter 245, How are we competing? Dongfang Yu smiled a casual, calm smile. He was also very interested in his suggestion. This time our main focus is showing the new students how to complete missions. We'll do it on who can complete the mission the fastest. But when fighting the demonic beasts, we seniors cannot intervene. How about it? Cui Haoyan proposed. Dongfang Yu turned to stare at Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, what do you think? This time our mission is to kill armored rhinoceros and take its skin. Armored rhinoceros were at the middle stage of mysterious Ian, the same as Bailey Hongzhuang. Demonic beasts had more natural strength and defense, so wanting to defeat it while at the same cultivation level wasn't very easy. No problem. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was crisp and sweet, replying without the slightest hesitation. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's blunt reply, a trace of a smile appeared in Cui Haoyan's eyes. New students always underestimated the strength of a demonic beast, especially Bailey Hongzhuang, who only registered as a mercenary after coming to Azure Water School. Wanting to handle armored rhinoceros really wasn't an easy thing to do. Our mission is to kill stonecat beasts. Their strength is very close to armored rhinos. Cui Haoyan looked at Bai Junyu. This was something he suddenly suggested, so he hadn't said anything to Bai Junyu beforehand. I also have no problems. His fresh and elegant, handsome face had a bright, sunny smile. Bai Junyu grinned widely, exposing straight, white teeth. This was a chance to demonstrate his strength. If he refused, there wouldn't be any more opportunities to properly assimilate into the team. So he couldn't refuse, and neither did he want to refuse. A trace of satisfaction appeared in Cui Haoyan's eyes. So then, the competition is set. Zhang Yunfeng's face turned interested as he proposed. Since it's a competition, how about we spice things up a bit? Speak. Gong Xiaoqing's face was emotionless as he stared at Zhang Yunfeng. His solid, handsome face emitted confidence. He still cherished words like gold, but that simple word was filled with haughtiness and arrogance, as if his victory was already won. Zhang Yunfeng seemed to understand Gong Xiaoqing's temperament and didn't take his rude word to heart. The winning team will get both teams' accumulated points, and us senior students will all put forward 500 gold coins into the wager. How about it? Zhang Yunfeng's lips rose slightly, her beautiful face filled with interest and heroic spirit. This kind of competition aroused their competitive spirits the most. Although they didn't know Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, Bai Junyu was at the late stage of Mysterious Ian. His talent was outstanding even amongst all the previous special enrollment students. Okay. Gong Xiaoqing never had the slightest bit of hesitation, his voice confident and steady. When Gong Xiaoqing made the decision, Dongfang Yu and Lu Qinyue didn't give the least bit doubt. There was clearly already a tacit understanding between the three. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. She actually didn't know Gong Xiaoqing had such confidence in her. From Little Black and Little White's mouths, She already knew that Bai Junyu was at the late stage of Mysterious Ian, one level above hers. Dealing with armored rhinos at the middle stage of Mysterious Ian wasn't easy at all, but killing stonecat beasts at the late stage was far less of a challenge. This simply wasn't a fair competition. Although she didn't exactly know how much 500 points were worth, from Zhang Yunfeng's attitude, she knew that it wasn't a small amount. Chapter 246. Except for her, the other three took out 500 points, totaling up to 1,500 points. In addition to the points gained from the mission, the bet wasn't small at all. Then, let us separate here. We shall meet again after the mission is completed. Cui Haoyin's gaze was resplendent, his handsome yet determined face overflowing with complete confidence. In this competition, it'd definitely be his victory. Luoyun Mountain Range was located behind Azure Water School, in between Feng Bo Country and Clear Flame Country. It was like a natural moat separating the two kingdoms. Azure Water School was also located in between the two kingdoms. As a result, the school was filled with students from those countries, as well as students from the other kingdoms and countries. The Luoyun Mountain Range could be said to be the biggest mountain range of Feng Bo Country, having great coverage. Even mercenaries would barely enter its outskirts. After countless years of nourishment, the ancient forest was towering and exuberant, with demonic beasts running rampant within. Although there was danger everywhere, in the eyes of cultivators, the forest was only a place filled with opportunities. Cui Haoyin waited till everyone separated, then Dong Feng Yu's peach blossom-shaped eyes rose slightly. His handsome and incomparable face was full of doubt and confusion. Dong Feng Yu's voice was gentle and mellow, confident but resolute. This was never a fair competition. They never promised it'd be. However, the most important thing was that this action of theirs would greatly increase the pressure on Bailey Hongzhuang. Cui Haoyin wishes to regain some face. Give him a chance, all right? Gong Xiaoqing's face was indifferent and uncaring. Even if I didn't agree today, he would continue bothering me. It's too much trouble. Too much trouble. He just didn't like the trouble. It wasn't because he had confidence in Bailey Hongzhuang's strength at all. 3 black lines appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's forehead. This sort of iceberg-faced guy simply couldn't be argued with using common sense. The corner of Dong Feng Yu's mouth curled into an understanding smile. Sure enough, that was what Gong Xiaoqing would think. However, this competition wasn't just a game to him. Lu Qinyue's lips hooked into a soft smile as she turned to explain to Bailey Hongzhuang. Gong Dage is just afraid he would be troublesome. A beautiful smile blossomed on her bright, dainty face, just like a blooming flower. Bright, colorful, and moving. It was a simple sentence, however. The meaning was extremely clear. It might have been extremely faint, but Bailey Hongzhuang was able to perceive the hidden meaning deep within. Evidently, Lu Qingyue admired Gong Xiaoqing, because when she spoke she had a somewhat strange tone of expectation. Could it be that she considered her as a rival? In the moment that this thought appeared, the corner of Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth tugged up. She was indeed a funny person. Whether it be appearance or strength, Dibei Chan had them both. Even though they were only working together for now, but just based on appearances they were a married couple. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix-shaped eyes raised in thought, spending a few moments thinking and in concern. That unmatched man, who knows how he's doing? That honorable status of his, because of his health, had degraded into becoming the prince of Feng Bo Country. Now that he returned to take it all back, she was afraid that it wouldn't be easy at all. A bewitching, sly smile appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. The corners of her lips also rose into a slight smile. Bailey Hongzhuang, we hope the bet won't give you any psychological burdens. It's just that there have always been some contradictions between us and Cui Haoyin, so don't worry about it. Chapter 247. Dong Feng Yu's brilliant, starry eyes were gentle to the point that they seemed wet, his voice deep yet graceful, appearing as if he was worried and comforting her. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly. I understand. This was Gong Xiaoqing and Cui Haoyin's competition. Her being able to help should already be giving Gong Xiaoqing face. And as for who wins and loses, she was just simply unrelated to it. However, she never liked losing. Stupid woman, if you lose the competition, All you have to do is admit that you're a stupid woman. Gong Xiaoqing spoke apathetically, his gaze staring ahead, just like an exotic calling out. That was how he spoke. Really don't know who he's talking to. What a mannerless bastard. Each and every action of this bastard was stained with the stench of arrogance and disdain. It was a stench that originated from the depths of his character. Seems like I've won already, so why don't you admit you're an idiot? His clear, yet crafty eyes were filled with ridicule. Even though the words Gong Xiaoqing said were not arrogant at all, she could hear the hidden consolation inside his words. Basically what he meant was, she lost the competition, but she doesn't need to care about it. All she had to was admit she was an idiotic woman, and that's all. In fact, whether she admitted it or not, Gong Xiaoqing would still call her by that. If the situation is like this, then to her, there was no difference in either option. Gong Xiaoqing coldly glanced at the quiet Bailey Hongzhuang and then continued walking forward. The corner of her mouth curled into a teasing smile. It seems like this bastard wasn't all that repulsive. When she was bored, she could just tease this facial nerve paralysis bastard for an interesting reaction. Bailey Hongzhuang's crafty charm was seen by Dongfang Yu. His peach blossom-shaped eyes fluttered about, a bright smile on his face. The entrance to the Falling Clouds mountain range was not far at all from the Azure Water School because there would normally be a lot of Azure Water School students entering the range to complete missions. So, it was very close. Both the east and west sides have one entrance. The entrance that Bailey Hongzhuang and company arrived at was the east entrance. On the other hand, Bai Junyu and his team entered the west entrance. By noon, they had arrived at the entrance to the Falling Clouds mountain range. Originally, this was just a normal entrance, but as the number of people traveling through here increased, it eventually evolved into a small town. It sold all kinds of things cultivators might need. At the same time, there were merchants who'd come here to buy demonic beast hides. Everyone here lived lives in contact with demonic beasts. Gong Xiaoqing and his company of 3 was clearly a frequent visitor to the Fallen Clouds mountain range. When they arrived, there was a multitude of envious yet admiring gazes upon them as they traveled down the street. However, there were even more gazes on Bailey Hongzhuang. Since when did Gong Xiaoqing's group include another woman? And her looks didn't lose to Lu Qinyue at all. Could it be one of Azure Water School's new special enrollment students? I didn't think that the special enrollment students had not only great strength but even beauty. If we're able to become Azure Water School students, how wonderful would that be? Bailey Hongzhuang's line of sight swept over the crowd. No wonder Dai Jimon acted with such haughtiness. This identity alone was enough to attract the envy of thousands. Have you already prepared everything you need? Do you need to buy anything here? Dongfang Yu had a smiling expression upon his face as he gently looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. No need. I've got everything I need. Let's first go to the inn and eat before changing into more durable clothing. Chapter 248. There were many inns near the entrance. Many cultivators would first rest here for a night, and after they recovered their strengths, they would head into Luo Yun Mountain. There were also drained cultivators who came back from Luo Yun Mountain that stayed at the inns. They would wait until they had recovered before leaving. Because it was a competition, Bailey Hongzhuang's group clearly wouldn't waste their time here. After they ate a simple meal, the 4 people changed into simple combat clothes. Inside the mountain, there were thorns growing everywhere. Normal long robes and clothing could easily get caught on them, which would greatly reduce their combative abilities. The moment that Bailey Hongzhuang came out dressed, everyone's eyes seemed to flash with stunning colors. They only see Bailey Hongzhuang wearing a suit of skin-tight, bright red, combat clothing. It revealed the perfection of her body without exposing anything. The bright and fresh colors paired with her beautiful face made her very alluring and charming. Her brows revealed a trace of heroic spirit and perseverance, making her seem even more pleasing to the eye. Her black phoenix eyes shined with light, showing her vigor and determination. The Bailey Hongzhuang dressed up in the uniform made Dongfang Yu and others can't help but feel as though they were looking at an illusion. The her like this emitted a dangerous but flirtatious charm, making people unable to take their eyes off of her. Even the cold Gong Xiaoqing showed a slight change in his expression. However, he recovered quickly, and no one noticed anything. Lu Qinyue's soft and gentle eyes flashed with amazement. Bailey Hongzhuang in her combat uniform seemed so different from when she was in her usual outfit. In white clothing, she looked pure. In red clothing, she looked charming. When worn by Bailey Hongzhuang, the two supposedly different styles seemed to fit together perfectly. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes swept over the other three's outfits. Gong Xiaoqing was wearing a black combat uniform. His handsome face was cold and expressionless. His eyes were as cold as ice. His hooked nose also added a few points of sharpness to his features. Dong Fangyu was wearing a light blue combat uniform. His temperament was kinda gentle, and he looked elegant and charming. Lu Qinyue was wearing a hibiscus pink combat uniform. With a water-like temperament, she seemed perfect. Even if she was wearing combat uniform, she was still beautiful and charming. After everyone had changed into their battle uniforms, it made them look less soft and tougher, more like cultivators from Azure Water School. "Let's go," Gong Xiaoqing nonchalantly said. His coldness seems to emit from his bones. Even if he is facing familiar teammates, his voice still carried coldness. With that, the four people headed towards Luo Yun Mountain. Along the way, they encountered many mercenaries and people here for training. Originally, Luoyu Mountain didn't have an entrance. It's only because there are multiple people going through the same route, so multiple entrances then appeared. The entrances were usually taken by human cultivators, so there were usually no demonic beasts that appear. One would only run into those demonic beasts deep in the mountain. As Dong Fangyu was walking, he was also explaining things to Bailey Hongzhuang. Since this the first time that Bailey Hongzhuang registered for mercenaries, then this should also be her first time coming to Luo Yun Mountain. Bailey Hongzhuang listened to Dong Fangyu's explanation. This basic knowledge was not foreign to her. However, she was now the Bailey Hongzhuang of Fengbo country, so she naturally had to make it seem more real. Lu Qinyue and Gong Xiaoqing were walking in front while Bailey Hongzhuang and Dong Fangyu were behind them. During the journey, there only seemed to be Bailey Hongzhuang and Dong Fangyu's voices. As the four people slowly headed deeper into the mountain, a number of cultivators they encountered decreased. Finally, it was only the four of them walking in the mountain. Chapter 249. The towering trees seemed to be high enough to touch the clouds. The warm sun shone through the gaps of the leaves, only leaving a little bit of light. It can be seen that Luo Yun Mountain has a lot of history. Suddenly, a subtle sound caught Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' attention. "Be careful." That handsome and cold face showed traces of alertness and cautiousness. Gong Xiaoqing observed his surroundings carefully. There must be some type of demonic beast around. Swish. There was a subtle sound, but they only saw a shadow flash by. The sword in Gong Xiaoqing's hand moved as fast as lightning. A lightning raccoon had been killed by his sword. Lightning raccoon was at mysterious Ian late stage. It was small in size, quick in action, and had the speed of lightning. Their specialties were sneak attacks, usually leaving their opponents unable to prevent them. Gong Xiaoqing grabbed his sword and the demonic beast crystal. Then he turned around and walked forward as if nothing had happened. Bailey Hongzhuang's brows lowered slightly. Gong Xiaoqing really was worthy of the title of Azure Water School's #1 student. The keen observation skills and incredible strength made people unable to find any flaws in him. When walking inside of Luo Yun Mountain, you can be attacked anytime by demonic beasts. That is why you must pay attention and concentrate on your surroundings. A careless person can easily lose their life here. Reminded Dong Fangyu along the way, Bailey Hongzhuang's group ran into many demonic beasts. Gong Xiaoqing, Dong Fangyu, and Lu Qinyue all took turns handling them. In between fights, Dong Fangyu would also carefully inform Bailey Hongzhuang on each demonic beast's weakness and things to keep in mind when battling them. Bailey Hongzhuang realized the demonic beasts here and the demonic beasts thousands of years in the past had a huge difference. After these thousands of years, these demonic beasts had evolved quite a lot. They had become smarter and were much harder to deal with than before. After all this time, the mysterious continent has already divided all kinds of demonic beasts into a clear system. Now, humans were very familiar with these demonic beasts. However, from what Bailey Hongzhuang learned from Dong Fangyu, many demonic beasts gradually disappeared throughout the long history of the years. The demonic beasts that could easily adapt to their surroundings then became stronger, whereas the weaker demonic beasts got weaker and eventually became extinct. It could be said that the demonic beasts now were much stronger than thousands of years before. The night slowly came around, and dense black clouds soon covered Luo Yun Mountain. This made the already dark mountain to seem even darker and silent. The darkness made people unable to see their fingers when they stretched out their hands. Around them, there were roars of demonic beasts and sounds of birds and insects. The whole Luo Yun Mountain seems to be covered in fear. Crackle, Bailey Hongzhuang, and the others were walking inside the mountain. The sounds of them stepping on leaves and branches could be clearly heard in this quiet night. "Let's go rest in front over there." Gong Shaoqing's star-bright eyes seemed like a gem shining in the night. It was truly bright and beautiful. They had been looking for a dry place to rest. It's just that before they were walking through a wetland and only managed to walk out of it now. Dongfang Yu smiled and nodded his head. The terrain up ahead is very high. It is very suitable for resting. Soon the four reached the high ground. They waited for Gong Shaoqing to carefully and cautiously inspect the area. Only after it is confirmed that there are no demonic beasts anywhere did they stable themselves on a sturdy tree to sit down. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others formed a circle and then sat down. They then started to take out dried food from their bags to eat. "After this whole day, do you feel tired?" Dongfang Yu's eyes were soft. His handsome and caring face revealed a shallow smile. When cultivators first participate in training as mercenaries, they will always be somewhat unused to it. Chapter 250. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly with her eyes shining brightly. "It's fine. I don't feel tired." Compared to the difficult cultivation practices she had gone through before, walking and running for a whole day was easy. There's no way she would feel exhausted from that. The only problem was that this body's physical strength wasn't good enough. She still needed to train more. "Oh." Dongfang Yu's brows raised up. His peach blossom-like eyes contained surprise and laughter. "I never knew that a general household's miss can handle so much." Dongfang Yu and the others run around outside and play often, so they are already used to the exhaustion. Bailey Hongzhuang was only a new student at Azure Water School. She was also a general's daughter. She most likely has been spoilt and wasn't able to handle such hard work. In fact, Bailey Hongzhuang's behavior was already way better than what he imagined. How many young girls would throw a fit at the thought of going into the mountains? Such a scene wasn't common at all, especially in the common class. They seemed to be everywhere. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips pulled into a grin. "That's because you don't understand me well enough. Children from rich families are usually pampered and spoiled. However, she was not one of those kids. She's always lived worse than a pig or dog." His peach blossom eyes revealed his confusion. He hadn't missed the darkness flickering in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Could there be a story behind it? Gong Shaoqing's eyes flickered and expressionlessly said, "She has not done anything but walk today. If she can't even handle that, then she should not be a cultivator." The same cold, unchanging tone. The same tone looking for a beating. Bailey Hongzhuang coldly glanced at Gong Shaoqing. Not one word from that guy's mouth was good. Dongfang Yu smiled, revealing traces of curiosity. "Our Gong Shaoqing normally never speak in such long sentences, ah? If you say it like that, does that mean that he was giving me face?" Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and asked. Her eyes contained a grin. After getting along for a while, she knew that Gong Shaoqing had a good heart. It's just that his words aren't very pleasant to hear. Dongfang Yu's brows lifted lightly. Although he did not speak, his laughter was very obvious. Lu Qingyue looked at the scene in front of her. Her gentle and water-like eyes showed traces of tension and anxiousness, but that was quickly hidden away. "Hongzhuang, you won't mind if I call you by that, right?" Lu Qingyue smiled softly. Her voice was like the wind, clear and pleasant to hear. "I don't mind." Bailey Hong smiled back. Today, Lu Qingyue was walking by Gong Shaoqing, so they didn't speak much. "It's your first time doing mercenaries, so you are bound to be unused to it. The next few days will all be like today. If you are unused to it, you can come talk to me." Lu Qinyue's smile was sweet and beautiful. Her soft looks make her seem like a kind sister. It let people put down their guards on her. "Thank you for your concern. Her bright phoenix eyes flashed with light. I'm not one of those pampered kids. Since I have decided to come here to cultivate, I have already gotten ready to experience hardship. You guys don't have to care about me. She was not at all new to this, so she didn't need to receive all this special care. The three's eyes all fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Those dark eyes were calm and persistent as the sun, glowing brightly. Dongfang Yu couldn't help but change the way he saw her. He knew that what Bailey Hongzhuang said was true, not only words of courtesy. She really didn't need everyone to see her as a newbie. That kind of firm and resolute eyes was something he recognized. The reason was that every cultivator that has gone through tough and hard practices would have such eyes, including Gong Xiaoqing, including him. Chapter 251. Gong Xiaoqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Her eyes were clear and bright, able to see straight through people. Bailey Hongzhuang, not wanting to lose, looked straight back at Gong Xiaoqing. The two pairs of eyes met each other. It seemed to be an instant collision. The next moment, Gong Xiaoqing looked away. With his face still indifferent, he said, "If that's the case, then we will not take extra care of you tomorrow and kick up our speed." Because it was Bailey Hongzhuang's first time coming into Luo Yun Mountain today, they purposefully slowed down their speed to take care of Bailey Hongzhuang. Since Bailey Hongzhuang was insisting, then they wouldn't waste any more time. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved up into an enchantingly beautiful smile. Today, she had already understood a lot about these demonic beasts 1,000 years later. Tomorrow, she would have no problem catching up to everyone's rhythm. Dongfang Yu looked at the beautifully smiling Bailey Hongzhuang. His brows flashed with a strange light. This woman, ever since the beginning, she has revealed so many extraordinary things about herself. She was always giving surprises. A silent night. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others rested there for a night. During that time, they hadn't encountered any demonic beasts or danger. It was obvious that Gong Xiaoqing's group has a good amount of experience in living inside the mountain. They knew what area was the safest resting spot. The four people were full of excitement as they continued on with their journey. The armored rhinoceros lived in the inner area of Luo Yun Mountain. From where they are now, it will take them about 3 days to reach the habitat. The speed of the group was clearly much faster today. Bailey Hongzhuang also not pressured by the fast speed at which they were traveling. After Gong Xiaoqing and the others saw Bailey Hongzhuang moving at such a quick speed without any pressure, they also kicked up their speed. They were not so willing to lose this race. Along the way, most of the demonic beasts were killed by Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu. Lu Qinyue and Bailey Hongzhuang didn't even have to fight. At this rate, the group was moving very fast. Originally, it was going to take 3 days for them to reach their destination, but they only needed 2 days. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others creeped along the hill. They looked at a lively armored rhinoceros at the bottom. Armored rhinoceros had a black body and hard and strong metal scales covering its whole body. Below the sunlight, it revealed an iron-like toughness. Its huge size was about the size of 2 fine horses. When it was walking, there were loud thumps. It seemed like it even shook the ground. Armored rhinoceros were usually in groups. They were lucky to come across a lone one. Bailey Hongzhuang, do you want me to kill an armored rhinoceros to show you a demonstration? Dongfang Yu's handsome eyes flashed with concern and worry. For a mysterious Ian middle stage's strength to take on an armored rhinoceros, it would be quite difficult, especially for Bailey Hongzhuang's type that didn't have experience in fighting demonic beasts. Dongfang, this was a singled armored rhinoceros. If you kill it, then it wouldn't be so easy for us to find another singled out one. Lu Qinyue's brows wrinkled slightly. Her beautiful face showed traces of awkwardness. What she said was the truth. When fighting a group of demonic beasts like the armored rhinoceros, one usually killed off just a lone beast that had wandered too far from the others. The other armored rhinoceros in this group would not be too far away. Once one of them was killed and alerted the others, they would all group together and go into a state of cautiousness. At that time, if one wanted to find a singled-out armored rhinoceros, it was not certain how long one would have to wait for one. Dongfang Yu was listening and wanted to say something, but Bailey Hongzhuang beat him to it and said, "Don't worry, I'll be fine." So far, she had not revealed her strength yet. so Dongfangyu and the others didn't know what she was capable of. It was only an armored rhinoceros. For her, there was no need to feel pressured. Chapter 252. All right, remember to be careful, Dongfangyu urged. Traces of confusion and surprise appeared in Lu Qinyue's eyes. Dongfangyu seemed to be especially concerned about Bailey Hongzhuang. Were they really just teammates? She had known Dongfangyu for a very long time. Although he always treated others politely, this was the first time she saw him so concerned and considerate. She instinctively sensed something was different. Take care. An apathetic voice was suddenly heard. Traces of concern were faintly visible in Gong Shaoqing's pitch-black pupils. Armored rhinoceros wasn't even easy for him to deal with, never mind a newcomer like Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang was flabbergasted before a confident smile slowly spread across her face. She really didn't expect that Gong Shaoqing would also caution her. I will. A smile as bright as the sun burst on Bailey Hongzhuang's perfectly delicate, beautiful face. 100 flowers seemed to bloom in that split second, creating an incomparable beauty. Bailey Hongzhuang unsheathed her translucent, blue sword. Her figure seemed just like a cheetah, a swish sounding as she ran. In the blink of an eye, she was already behind the armored rhinoceros. A trace of surprise flicked in Gong Shaoqing's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang's speed wasn't simple. Ding! Bailey Hongzhuang didn't waste any time. The spirit power within her body rushing forth into the blade, causing it to release a faint glow. She brandished the ice-chilling sword, ruthlessly stabbing it towards the armored rhinoceros' soft underbelly. All demonic beasts had weaknesses. Armored rhinoceros had a hard outer shell. Trying to break through its defense wasn't at all easy. By attacking its weak point, you could get twice the effect with half the effort. You could only hear the subtle sounds of a sword piercing skin before a heaven-shakingly loud roar sounded from the armored rhinoceros. Roar! The armored rhinoceros hadn't expected for somebody to suddenly attack it. A burst of pain came from its belly before it could even notice somebody was there. Under the fierce pain, the armored rhinoceros seemed to go mad as it charged rapidly at Bailey Hongzhuang. Rumble. The huge body seemed just like a cannonball as it charged with heaven-shaking momentum. Its bloody mouth was opened wide like a sacrificial bowl, dense, cold air coming out from its needle-sharp teeth, cruel and bloody. Woo! The armored rhinoceros opened its mouth to bite at Bailey Hongzhuang. If Bailey Hongzhuang were to be bitten, her entire body would be completely mutilated. But Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were calm from beginning to end. Even though she was facing such a crisis, her delicate face wasn't the least bit panicked. Bailey Hongzhuang's speed grew even faster as she rushed straight at the armored rhinoceros. Seeing this, Gong Shaoqing and the rest were all stunned. What was Bailey Hongzhuang doing? Hongzhuang won't be in danger, will she? Lu Qinyue's clear eyes flashed with worry. Bailey Hongzhuang's move was truly past what they had anticipated. Gong Shaoqing frowned as he gathered his spirit power, prepared to rush out and rescue Bailey Hongzhuang. The instant Bailey Hongzhuang and the armored rhinoceros were about to collide, her figure suddenly twisted away, slipping past its body like a fish. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang was no longer there, the armored rhinoceros continued to charge. It couldn't stop. Bailey Hongzhuang grabbed the opportunity. Her body tightly slid past the armored rhino as she waved her sword. The ice-chilling sword flew through the air as the subtle sound of sword-piercing flesh once again echoed in the air, causing the armored rhino's blood to gush out violently. Roar! The armored rhinoceros roared even more wildly. Its black eyes were tinged red as it charged even more madly at Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 253. The Armored Rhinoceros is Furious. Gong Shaoqing's voice was downcast. A haze covered his cold and indifferent eyes, hiding what was under so nobody could see. Bailey Hongzhuang already managed to seriously wound the armored rhinoceros with only 2 strokes of her sword. Whether it's strength or mentality, there are no flaws at all. Dongfangyu's graceful, handsome face was filled with admiration. It was very rare for a new student to give such a performance on their first time out. After an armored rhinoceros's strength bursts out, it isn't easy to deal with it. Lu Qinyue's voice was tender as if water, her dainty, delicate face unreadable. I think that no matter what it is, Bailey Hongzhuang will be able to handle it. Dongfang Yu smiled confidently. He could see that even facing the armored rhinoceros fury, Bailey Hongzhuang was still calm and indifferent, her eyes undisturbed without the slightest wave. She wasn't at all panicked. Rumble. The armored rhinoceros charged forward. Bailey Hongzhuang sheathed her sword and once again faced it head-on. This time, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't slip by but instead jumped up into midair. Her figure flipped over, landing steadily on its back. Her movements were neat and tidy as if it was second nature. It was just like she already knew what would happen. Her carefulness was worthy of admiration. The armored rhino didn't think that this repulsive human would crawl onto its back and frantically shook its body, wanting to throw Bailey Hongzhuang off. But no matter how the armored rhinoceros moved and twisted, Bailey Hongzhuang was stuck on its back. Right now, the fastest way to defeat it was to attack the armored rhino's back. But this time, the mission was to bring back the rhino's intact leather so Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't. The spirit power in her body rushed forth as her middle-stage mysterious Ian strength burst out. Bailey Hongzhuang gathered her spirit power in her right hand, giving out a dazzling light. Storm Cleaver. Bailey Hongzhuang shouted coldly, the berserk, endless strength in her first ruthlessly pounding on the armored rhino. Bang! A dull noise sounded as a heavy object fell to the ground. The armored rhinoceros toppled over with a loud bang, its big eyes slowly losing light. Dongfang Yu and the rest were all astonished. They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be able to kill the armored rhinoceros so cleanly and efficiently. Originally, they had thought that even if Bailey Hongzhuang was strong enough to defeat the armored rhinoceros, their fight would definitely be at least dangerous. But Bailey Hongzhuang's fight was smooth and natural, without the least bit of flaw. Gong Shaoqing's eyes flickered. Bailey Hongzhuang's fight didn't seem one bit like a shaky novice's. All her responses to the armored rhino were clear and logical, nimbly attacking its weak points. Everything was methodically arranged, as if she had lived a life secluded in the mountains. Bailey Hongzhuang easily took out the armored rhino's demonic core. But before Dongfang Yu and the others could congratulate Bailey Hongzhuang, an enormous figure charged at Bailey Hongzhuang like lightning. A heavy shadow covered Bailey Hongzhuang. She raised her eyes and saw another armored rhinoceros facing the one she had just killed. "Be careful," Dongfang Yu cried in alarm. His gentle and soft, handsome face was filled with worry, but they were too far. The armored rhinoceros' arrival was too sudden. There wasn't enough time to save her. Chapter 254, Swish. A fine and powerful sword swept by, startling everyone. Shadowless kill. Bailey Hongzhuang's figure curled into a spin before directly rolling onto the armored rhinoceros's body. In that split second, the armored rhinoceros's belly was split open, blood spraying everywhere. Bailey Hongzhuang even then took advantage of the lighting to extract the armored rhino's demonic core. Thump! Another armored rhinoceros fell to the ground. It had only appeared for a few seconds before dying. Gong Shaoqing, Dongfang Yu, and Lu Qinyue rushed to Bailey Hongzhuang's side only to see her matchlessly beautiful face calm and indifferent as if it was normal, her black eyes light like water, without the slightest hint of panic. Dark red blood was smeared on her beautifully exquisite face, only increasing her charm and allure. Together with her blazing red clothes, she seemed just like a beautiful evil spirit, bewitching the world. A shocked color flitted past Dongfang Yu's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang's beauty was almost earth-shaking. A single glance was unforgettable. Bailey Hongzhuang, your battle was breathtaking. Hongzhuang, your skills aren't like a newbie's at all. It looks like our worry was meaningless. Lu Qinyue smiled, her voice gentle and mellow. Gong Shaoqing inspected Bailey Hongzhuang and didn't speak, but instead looked at her meaningfully. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips quirked into a small smile. She wasn't prepared to hide anything. After all, she'll be working with this team in the future. Even though her performance didn't match the amount of experience her identity should have, it didn't matter. Because almost nobody would ever think that she wasn't the real Bailey Hongzhuang. The leather's in perfect condition. You've completed the mission even better than required. Gong Xiaoqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, his indifferent voice a little less cold. Dongfang Yu's coquettish eyes had a stunningly beautiful smile to them. It looks like our originally small team of ours got another demonic little helper. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, helping Dongfang Yu and the others disassemble the armored rhinoceros. The most valuable part of the armored rhinoceros was its leather. The leather could be used to make very powerful armors, so it was a favorite for many cultivators. But while the four were cutting apart the leather, an untimely voice was suddenly heard. Gong Xiaoqing, Dongfang Yu, what a coincidence to meet again. The rude and frivolous voice was filled with provocation and hate, obviously filled with bad intentions. Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu's eyes changed when they heard the voice. Yi Hucheng. Gong Xiaoqing's originally frosty face became even colder, a blizzard seeming to appear in his pitch-black pupils. His whole body seemed to emit ice. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyes to look the newcomers. There were 4 of them, all about 18 years old. They were led by a yellow-dressed man. His long black hair was kept high up with goat slick, and his face was dashingly handsome. In the Ross, technically means that he looked anorexically handsome, but I'm assuming the author made a mistake and meant, which means dashingly handsome. His eyes seemed sharp and ruthless like a hawk, his eagle-like nose only adding evil air. His thin, pale lips were pulled into a cruel sneer. One look was enough to know that this guy was born cruel and unreasonable. Not only Yi Hucheng, but the 3 cultivators behind him also reeked of blood and had an aura of death around them. With Bailey Hongzhuang's experience, she knew that the blood on these 4's hands wasn't small at all. Haha, truly enemies on a narrow road. Yi Hucheng smiled faintly, his eyes cold and vicious as he stared at Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu. The depths of his pupils hid his extreme envy and resentment. Chapter 255. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brows. It seems like there's a pretty big grudge between their team and Yi Hucheng's. Yi Hucheng, what do you want now? Dongfang Yu's normally graceful and gentle appearance was now like ice, his deep, dark eyes filled with disgust. What do I want now? Yi Hucheng smiled, his eyes slowly turning dark. That armored rhinoceros is now mine. Dongfang Yu sneered. You're dreaming. I'm dreaming? Yi Hucheng's smile slowly widened. If you don't hand it over, we'll just beat you up. Plus, you have 2 women. Be careful, After all, my brothers here would be happy to ravage the flowers. In line with Yi Hucheng's words, the 3 men behind him all stared at Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Qinyue, filled with interest. Yi Hucheng's eyes lit up. I didn't think that Azure Water School would actually get another beauty I haven't seen before. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang frivolously, not trying to hide the lust in his eyes at all. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes that were clear like water was filled with distaste and contempt. Yi Hucheng's stare only made her disgusted. Where do you think you're looking? There was a clear warning in her cold voice. She hated these sort of annoying and shameless guys the most. LOL, isn't Bewitching also annoying and shameless? 3. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's rude warning, Yi Hucheng actually smiled instead of getting angry. Compared to that whore, Li Qinyue, this little beauty seems to have a lot more than that gentle-as-water personality. Hearing that, Lu Qinyue's elegant, dainty face turned pale. Her figure trembled slightly as if she had suffered a huge blow. Bailey Hongzhuang felt a burst of astonishment. Anyone who saw Lu Qinyue would immediately take her for a goddess, so for Yi Hucheng to call her a whore was truly surprising. For Lu Qinyue to be this panicked, there was clearly some history behind them. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was still a bit unconvinced. With Gong Xiaoqing and his group status in Azure Water School, who would dare to be so hostile? Yi Hucheng and his group obviously weren't Azure Water School students, but then otherwise, why would he have history with them? Master, that annoying guy's strength is comparable to Gong Xiaoqing's. Little White called out. Her phoenix eyes suddenly narrowed. A trace of understanding flitting by as Bailey Hongzhuang instantly realized something. A faint possibility floated into her mind. Maybe these four people were former students of Azure Water School. After all, to have that much strength at such a young age, they could be considered as cultivation geniuses, absolutely not like ordinary rich prodigal sons. Huqing, don't look for trouble. Gong Shaoqing's voice was sinisterly cold, his dark, pitch-black pupils like ice as a trace of killing intent slowly grew. I am looking for trouble. What can you do about it? Huqing's smile suddenly grew icy, resentment and hatred burning in his eyes. Gong Shaoqing, you made me fall into this situation. So do you really think that I'd give you an easy time? You brought it upon yourself. You deserve to be driven away from the school. Dongfang Yu's voice was cold and decisive, the icy color of his eyes below freezing. Haha. Huqing walked towards Dongfang Yu. I deserved it? Huqing suddenly raised his voice, his pitch-black pupils seeming to go mad. If it wasn't for that whore, how could I have become like this? All of this, everything is because of you guys. Huqing's veins protruded. As long as Huqing is alive, I will not let you guys have a peaceful life. Chapter 256. Lu Qinyue's face grew even paler, her small, dainty face losing all its blood. Her eyes that were always tranquil like water was now filled with panic and fear as the fog in her eyes grew, like raindrops on a pear blossom. It was truly a pitiful sight. Raindrops on a pear blossom is an idiom meaning tear-stained face of a beauty. Could it be a love triangle? Bailey Hongzhuang rubbed her chin. Although none of them specifically said what had happened, she could faintly guess a few things. A femme fatale. As Azure Water School's #1 beauty, Lu Qinyue was extremely beautiful. But Ji Huqing loved Lu Qinyue immediately and followed her, before finally being expelled from Azure Water School. But the punishment seemed too harsh. There was definitely more to the story. Little Black thought and nodded. This show probably has a lot of things worth watching. Master. Me? Watch. Inside the primordial chaos ring, Baisher shook its fluffy little head, his watery eyes filled with want. Little Black and Little White were both watching outside, so he was the only one inside the ring. He was just about to die out of boredom. Bailey Hongzhuang held her forehead. Why did her demonic beasts seem to like watching shows so much? Master, wanna see? Baisher whined, tears instantly filling his watery eyes. His appearance was extremely pitiful. Bailey Hongzhuang felt a burst of helplessness. Baisher really was quite pitiful, spending almost all of his days inside the primordial chaos ring. Now isn't the time to come out. Let's wait until this is over first. Baisher clearly wanted to leave the primordial chaos ring immediately, but hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's serious words, he could only obediently nod his little head. Either you leave us the leather, or we fight. But the consequences... Think about it thoroughly. Huqing's lips curled into a cold smile, staring icily at Lu Qinyue. His love gave birth to his hate. The leather's ours. Gong Shaoqing's face was indifferent. Huqing, leave now and I'll pretend nothing just happened. Gong Shaoqing, spare me your high and mighty attitude. In front of others it's fine, but in front of me, what qualifications do you have? An arrogant tone is full of disdain and disgust. A loathful full face cannot surpass Gong Shaoqing's calm appearance. He just doesn't understand how can this cold and distant ice mountain face make anyone like him. Huqing, you should not go too far with this, said Lu Qinyue with a slight tremble. Her soft and beautiful face showed a sense of seriousness. Lu Qinyue, before I have always thought of you as a goddess. Now, you are worthless in my eyes. You better hope to God that you do not fall in my hands. Otherwise, I will let you neither live nor die. The words burst out from his mouth. That appearance making one gnashing own teeth has already hated made him hate Lu Qinyue down to his bones. Thinking back to before, Huqing, was high-spirited and vigorous. Being a special recruit student, he was the shining star. Even when compared to Gong Shaoqing, they seemed to be equally strong. However, because of Lu Qinyue this slut, all of his future and potential was destroyed. Even his name was smeared. How can he not hate her? If you will not give up, then we can only fight. Ihuchin's mouth raised up. He looked highly arrogant, but his expression slowly gained some seriousness. The cruelness in his bones completely exploded. At this moment, the original temper disappeared in a flash. Without that wild energy, it revealed Azure Water School's true posture. The strength of a mysterious Ian middle stage burst open. A sharp, large sword appeared in his hand, then quickly flashed by. An ice-cold and firm light was dispersed. Chapter 257. Gong Shaoqing's expression stayed the same. He grasped his long sword, its ice-cold aura radiating through the air. In an instant, it seemed as if his entire being became a sword, sharp and penetrating. Ding, ding, ding. The two didn't even hesitate at all. The instant they grabbed their weapons, they started attacking each other. Their fiery fury surrounded them as their swords clanged and ferociously attacked each other. Their bodies were like tornadoes, their movements fierce and mean, yet as they whirled around each other, it was as if they weren't willing to part. Ihuqing's three friends also charged towards Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. Since the fight had already started, then why not make it a group fight? Dongfang Yu narrowed his peach blossom eyes as a sharp and dangerous light flashed in his eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang, Lu Qinyue, in this group of three, there is one that's at the mysterious heaven initial stage. I'll take care of him. The other two are mysterious Yuan late stage. You two should try with all your effort to delay them for a period of time. I will try to resolve everything as quickly as possible. Lu Qinyue was also at the mysterious Yuan late stage and was equally matched with the other side. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was a little weaker, so it would be dangerous for her. Dongfang, I understand. Lu Qinyue took out her weapon and a guarded expression appeared on her face. Bailey Hongzhuang, you have to be extra careful. If you can't fight them directly, then try to find a way to stall for time. Dongfang Yu turned his head towards Bailey Hongzhuang and warned her. His handsome face was filled with concern and anxiety. The resentment between Ihuqing and them was very old. It had long since turned into a full-on fight, rather than touching on something and then ignoring it. The corner of Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth raised slightly. Her delicate and flawlessly beautiful face did not show a trace of anxiety or nervousness. Relax, I can handle myself. As the Grand Master of an aristocratic family, what type of dangers had she never seen? A mysterious Yuan late-stage cultivator couldn't shock her and make her scared. Looking at those pitch-black, limpid phoenix eyes that were filled with self-confidence and firmness, Dongfang Yu slightly nodded his head, his heart finally settling down somewhat. Immediately, he jumped into battle. Meanwhile, Lu Qinyue was already facing one of the men. Beauty, you're so pretty that I almost can't even bear to lay a hand on you. The frivolous voice was filled with bad intentions as Chu Haicheng laughed, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang teasingly. You're only at the middle stage of Mysterious Ian. You're simply not my opponent. It'd be better for you to become my woman than to let your skin and flesh suffer, don't you think? Chu Haicheng looked as if he was about to drool. Lu Qinyue was Ihuqing's, so naturally, he didn't dare have any thoughts about her. But this woman in front of him didn't lose out to Lu Qinyue in the least. She was truly a rare beauty. He almost didn't have the heart to destroy the flower. Bailey Hongzhuang's bright, pitch-black pupils were mocking as she looked disdainfully at the content man in front of her. Her long, shapely brows raised as she spoke, her tone cold and scornful. You. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled bewitchingly. Why don't you piss a pool of water to see what you look like first? Her cold voice was insolent and haughty. Chu Haicheng simply wasn't even in her eyes. It was as if just looking at Chu Haicheng would dirty her eyes. This guy, she didn't care about at all. She stood arrogantly in front of Chu Haicheng. His originally smiling face could no longer smile as his lips twitched, a wave of anger sweeping through his eyes. Woman, you're refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Bailey Hongzhuang was calm and indifferent against his threat. How? Bailey Hongzhuang's arrogance was clearly shown in her one-word reply. He was only a little first-level cultivator. What qualifications did he have to speak? Chu Haicheng clearly understood that Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude wasn't the least bit gentle. Since this woman actually provoked his dignity, he didn't mind teaching Bailey Hongzhuang the gap between them. Chapter 258. Chu Haicheng suddenly stepped forward. Strong spirit power burst out as his fist cut through the air, ruthlessly attacking Bailey Hongzhuang's face. His quick and agile fist made a whistling sound as it flew, filled with strength. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly felt a sharp, knife-like burst of pain on her face. But her eyes were firm as she slid away, moving like a shadow. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang slide away just like a demon, Chu Haicheng looked at his punch that was just about to hit Bailey Hongzhuang, the smile on his mouth fading when he realized that she was already no longer there. Storm Cleaver. Bailey Hongzhuang's attack had no hesitation, appearing behind Chu Haicheng like lightning, her martial skill ruthlessly striking at Chu Haicheng's back. Bang! A dull sound rang in the air. Chu Haicheng seemed just like a toad, falling flat on his face like a dog eating feces. Bailey Hongzhuang stood in her original position, a confident smile on her beautiful, clear, cold face. Rays of sunlight danced on her body, making her look even nobler in the dust, as if she would ride the wind back at any time. Chu Haicheng's face was extremely ugly. He never thought that he'd be beaten to the ground by such a weak-looking little girl. If this was spread around, he'd definitely lose all his face. Dongfang Yu and the others who were fighting had also noticed, their faces turning shocked. They originally thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would only be able to stall Chu Haicheng, and wounding him a bit would already be very good. But they hadn't thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would even be able to get the upper hand in the fight as well. Chu Haicheng's face was boiling. Letting this weak, little girl knock him down really was too embarrassing. Yihuqing frowned, his black eyes filled with disgust and contempt. His voice was as cold as ice. Trash. Getting beaten to the ground by a weak little girl with his strength. What could he be but trash? Chu Haicheng's face was extremely unsightly. Bailey Hongzhuang's attack just now wasn't soft at all, a piercing pain stabbing at his body. He was already injured. You're courting death. Chu Haicheng almost bit off his gums. His originally soft-hearted feelings had completely disappeared, replaced by a bone-deep hatred towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Do you have the strength? Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold. This guy shouldn't have thought about her like that earlier. Otherwise, he would have to pay the price. Chu Haicheng snorted coldly, no longer arguing with Bailey Hongzhuang. His figure suddenly moved, a long sword now in his hands. He brandished it, sword aura attacking madly at Bailey Hongzhuang's vital parts. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes sharpened. The ice-chilling sword appeared in her hands, dancing wildly in the wind, blocking the slivers of sword aura. Without the slightest intention of retreating, she charged directly at Chu Haicheng, seeing Bailey Hongzhuang charge at him without any fear. Chu Haicheng's heart sneered. Earlier, he was only careless. Did Bailey Hongzhuang really think of him as trash? Ding ding ding. The two swords fought, the sounds of gold and iron clashing echoing in the air. But after, Chu Haicheng's face changed a bit. Bailey Hongzhuang was actually strong enough to fight him head-on? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed. She had to begin cultivating her body for martial skills as soon as possible. Only by getting stronger can she bypass levels and defeat somebody with a higher cultivation than her. Shadowless kill. The spirit power in her body poured out madly into the ice-chilling sword, making the azure sword glow brilliantly. It was filled with powerful and terrifying strength. Chapter 259. Chu Haicheng's face changed. He could clearly sense a threat from Bailey Hongzhuang's attack. This was a high-grade yellow martial skill. Bailey Hongzhuang had only just entered Azure Water School, but had actually already gotten a high-grade yellow martial skill. It must be known that wielding a high-grade yellow martial skill at the middle stage of Mysterious Ian wasn't easy at all. Plus, getting a high-grade yellow martial skill was also extremely difficult. Flaming Cloud Sword. Chu Haicheng didn't dare to be careless, fully using his middle-grade yellow martial skill to face Bailey Hongzhuang head-on. Ding! The two blades locked in the air, colliding with each other fiercely. The two skills interweaved, continuously eating up the other's energy. They were almost evenly matched. Chu Haicheng's face had already changed into a deep, purple hue. His strength was higher than Bailey Honghaung's, but Bailey Hongzhuang's martial skill was stronger than his. So, the situation had turned out like this. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips formed an enchanting smile. The contrast in her bright, red clothes made her seem like an evil spirit, emitting astonishing charm. Chu Haicheng took note of Bailey Honghaung's thoughtful smile. He didn't know why, but his heart suddenly had a bad premonition. In a flash, the blue sword drained the red sword's energy, once again attacking Chu Haicheng. Although it was far weaker than before, it still couldn't be underestimated. Chu Haicheng hadn't thought that she would be so tenacious, and by the time he reacted and wanted to block, it was already too late. He could only turn around and escape, intending to hide from the attack. But in the end, he was still slower than the sword. His figure flew, his left shoulder drenched in blood. Chu Haicheng screamed. His left arm had almost been chopped in half by her sword. Chu Haicheng's face was deathly pale, staring at Bailey Hongzhuang in terror. He really couldn't believe that this little girl at the middle stage of mysterious Ian could actually wound him to this extent. Her moves were strategic and ruthless. He knew his own strength, but in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, he felt that he was too weak. That disdainful gaze of hers made him panic. It was as if she was a king, and anyone before her could only bow their heads. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked in front of Chu Haicheng, a mocking smile on her quiet and elegant face. "You said you wanted to kill me?" Her satirizing words fell into Chu Haicheng's ears. His dark face flushed. He was completely humiliated. Today was the first time he had lost so much face. Gong Shaoqing and Yi Huqing's battle was tight, their strength equally matched. Although Gong Shaoqing had Azure Watershoal's resources, the progress Yi Huqing made by living in the mountain ranges and fighting every day, learning through experience, wasn't small at all. The two's strength was completely equal. Determining a victor would take a very long time. Dongfang Yu was only a hair-widths away from breaking through to the middle stage of Mysterious Heaven and completely suppressed his opponent. Finishing him would only take a short amount of time. Lu Qinyue was in a rather difficult situation. Women were never the best at fighting others, let alone her opponent, which seemed to be specialized to deal with her. Under such circumstances, Lu Qinyue was little by little retreating in defeat. Her beautiful face was furious, but there were no other alternatives. After all, beauties were most scared of running into rogues, especially a gentle as water beauty like Lu Qinyue. Chapter 260. Yi Huqing and his team had originally planned to capture Bailey Honghaung and Lu Qinyue. That way, not only would Gong Shaoqing and Dongfang Yu be at their mercy, they would also be able to get back their face. Unfortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang changed everything. Chu Haicheng wasn't able to handle Bailey Hongzhuang and had even gotten seriously injured. So, they were at a disadvantage. Dongfang Yu's face was bright as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, filled with surprise and admiration. Bailey Hongzhuang's strength really wasn't like a normal newbie's, because even amongst Azure Water School's special enrollment students, nobody had fighting strength as stunning as hers. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't stop, directly going to Lu Qinyue. Since they were part of the same group, they were naturally teammates. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang come to help, Lu Qinyue sighed in relief. She really couldn't bear facing such a vulgar man. Gong Shaoqing's eyes were dark and cold, his voice bone-chillingly cold. "You lose." This time, Yi Huqing lost. It wasn't that he lost to Gong Shaoqing, but his team who lost to Gong Shaoqing's. Yi Huqing's face was dark, his cold eyes sinister. He looked at Gong Shaoqing, unresigned. "You're just lucky this time." Chu Haicheng, that trash. Their originally simple plan was completely destroyed because of that bastard. He actually lost to Gong Shaoqing again. So hateful. Yi Huqing stopped attacking. There was no point in continuing the battle anymore because the outcome is already determined. He turned his gaze. Yi Huqing looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang and waved his large hands. "Let's go." After Yi Huqing and the other three left, Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fangyu went to Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Qinyue's side. How are you two? Gong Xiaoqing's knife-like eyes lost a few bits of coldness. Those light eyes that never carried any expression showed a few senses of concern. Bailey Hongzhuang lightly shook her head. She turned her head and looks at the Lu Qinyue off to the side. Ever since Yi Huchen showed up, Lu Qinyue's condition didn't seem right. Only afraid that she didn't suffer any physical harm, but received a hard blow in the heart. Gong Xiaoqing walked forward. He walks over to Lu Qinyue's side. He starts to speak in a low voice, but it seemed to be more gentle and soft than normal. You have me here. You don't have to worry. After these words are out, the Lu Qinyue's deep dark eyes suddenly blossomed a bright and dazzling light. It seems as if Gong Xiaoqing was her sunshine that brightened up her deep, darkened heart. Gongdaji, thank you. Her beautiful face, as small as a palm, was still a bit pale, mist in her exquisite eyes. It was like raindrops on a pear blossom, truly making one feel pity. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang was a girl, looking at such a Lu Qinyue, her heart also couldn't help but grow a bit soft. A weeping beauty would always be able to shake the heart. Dong Fangyu blinked his coquettish eyes, the pink outer edges of his eyes filled with charm. Bailey Hongzhuang, I hadn't thought that your fighting strength would be so strong. Your performance was truly stunning. Bypassing levels in the fight and beating Chu Haicheng in such a short time. Her combat strength really was amazing. He started to get a little curious how the two teachers had managed to find such a heaven-defying talent like Bailey Hongzhuang. A relaxed and astute look flickered by Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes, her cherry-red lips stretching into an enchanting smile. You're flattering me, just flattering me. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's strange and mischievous appearance, Dong Fangyu's eyes shined. This Bailey Hongzhuang was truly hard not to like. Gong Xiaoqing and Lu Qinyue were off to the side, exchanging whispers to each other. Bailey Hongzhuang and Dong Fangyu walked away, giving the pair some space. Chapter 261. You're not curious about Yi Huqing and our relationship? Dong Fangyu raised his eyebrow, smiling as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were calm and clear, the corners of her mouth curling into a faint smile. If you want to tell me, I also won't mind listening. After all, this was their affair. She couldn't open other people's scars just for the sake of satisfying her own curiosity. In fact, she also wasn't very curious because she had already guessed most of what happened. Dong Fangyu's dark eyes showed surprise and appreciation. For Bailey Hongzhuang's age, understanding like this really wasn't easy. At first, he had admired Bailey Hongzhuang's looks and resourcefulness, using the mountain bandits to get rid of her pursuers effortlessly. Now as groupmates in the mountains, he admired Bailey Hongzhuang's courage and maturity. No matter how you looked at it, she didn't have a single flaw. Yi Huqing also used to be an Azure Water School special enrollment student. Dong Fangyu finally told the whole story to Bailey Hongzhuang. In the future, they'd all be teammates and would always act together. This wasn't the first time Yi Huqing tried to find trouble with them, and probably also not the last. Knowing the whole story would help the team to harmonize better. From Dong Fangyu, Bailey Hongzhuang got to fully know the ins and outs of the story. So originally, Yi Huqing and Gong Xiaoqing's strength were evenly matched, and it could be said that they were two leading spotlight figures in Azure Water School. Gong Xiaoqing was cold, preferring to cultivate alone. Yi Huqing was comparatively cheerful and liked to make friends. Lu Qinyue, Azure Water School's #1 beauty, had already liked Gong Xiaoqing from a long time ago, but Yi Huqing liked Lu Qinyue. Originally, there was no enmity between Gong Xiaoqing and Yi Huqing. But then when Yi Huqing found out that the one in Lu Qinyue's heart was Gong Xiaoqing, he was filled with unwillingness and anger. He looked for a chance to compete with Gong Xiaoqing, intending to prove himself as Azure Water School's #1 so Lu Qinyue could know that he was the best. But for Gong Xiaoqing, such a boring competition wasn't interesting at all. One day, Yi Huqing sent a slip of paper to Lu Qinyue, telling her to meet in the mountains. Lu Qinyue thought it was Gong Xiaoqing and went to the mountains. When Yi Huqing saw Lu Qinyue actually come, he was filled with happiness. But then Lu Qinyue suddenly turned and walked away abruptly, stirring up Yi Huqing's long-suppressed anger. In that moment, he rushed at Lu Qinyue, intending to force her. Fortunately, Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu were also cultivating in the mountains and saved Lu Qinyue. Otherwise, the result would have been too horrible to even think about. Because of this, Yi Huqing was punished and expelled from Azure Water School. Since then, there had always been hate and animosity between the two teams. So it's like that. Bailey Honghao's eyes were filled with understanding. It was more or less the same as what she had guessed earlier. Lu Qinyue suffered a lot of trauma and was muddle-headed for a long time after that. Gong Xiaoqing thought it was because of him, so he looks after Lu Qinyue a lot. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. I couldn't tell. It looks like Gong Xiaoqing is still quite righteous. Although he's cold and not good at speaking, his personal character is actually rather good. Dongfang Yu winked brightly, a joking smile on his lips. Otherwise, I wouldn't be friends with him. Master. Baisher's two small paws kept digging into the ground, his watery eyes filled with anticipation. Didn't they agree that he could come out? How could she forget after a chat? Little Black and Little White sympathized. In fact, they had also never got to go out before. Chapter 262. Bailey Hongzhuang had only just remembered the unwilling, idle little guy and immediately brought him out of the primordial chaos ring. Baisher's whole body was covered in soft, fluffy fur, making him seem just like a cute puppy as he incessantly pulled on Bailey Hongzhuang's robes. Master. Bailey Hongzhuang put Baisher on her shoulder. Baisher's face was very happy, intimately rubbing against the crook of Bailey Hongzhuang's neck. She patted Baisher's head. Although she still didn't know what sort of demonic beast he was, Bailey Hongzhuang still liked him very much. Dongfang Yu looked Baisher, who had suddenly appeared beside Bailey Hongzhuang, his deep eyes flashing with surprise. Who's this little guy? My contract beast. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled beautifully and then frowned a little. Although I still don't know what kind of demonic beast it is. Contract beast? Dongfang Yu was startled. Such a contract beast. Could it be that this young noble miss is raising it just as an ornamental contract beast? But that doesn't seem to match Bailey Hongzhuang's usual temperament. This little guy is a dog? Dongfang Yu reached out to pet Baisher as he spoke. The originally docile and obedient Baisher suddenly bared its fangs, glaring at Dongfang Yu viciously. Dongfang Yu pulled back his hand, his eyes still smiling. I also don't know what sort of demonic beast this is. Seeing Dongfang Yu think of Baisher as a dog, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with helplessness. Could it be? Baisher really was a dog? Her legendary reputation, she had originally wanted to become a famous existence of Shengxian continent, but it seemed like there was already a misstep in her plan. At this moment, Gong Xiaoqing and Lu Qinyue were about done talking. When they turned and saw Baisher on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulders, their faces were both filled with astonishment. This is Bailey Honghao's contract beast. Dongfang Yu introduced them. Gong Xiaoqing. Do you know what kind of demonic beast this is? Gong Xiaoqing inspected the plump, little adorable thing before looking at Bailey Hongzhuang thoughtfully. I don't know. Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. Just now, she had clearly seen Gong Xiaoqing smirk a little at her contract beast's uselessness. Contract beasts weren't something easy at all. Every cultivator only had one chance to get a contract beast, so if one got the opportunity, they would definitely never waste it. Though of course, wanting to find a contract beast wasn't at all easy. Many cultivators were so poor that they couldn't even afford the chance to contract one. As Azure Water School's special enrollment students, their futures were limitless, so wanting to get a contract beast wasn't at all an impossible task. A contract beast's biggest use was its power in a battle. But Bailey Hongzhuang's contract beast only seemed to have one purpose, acting cute. But it's cute. Gong Xiaoqing walked forward, his voice falling into Bailey Honghao's ears. 3 black lines appeared on Bailey Honghao's forehead. That sentence should be considered a compliment, right? Then how come from Gong Xiaoqing's mouth? It sounded like something completely different. Dongfang Yu and Gong Xiaoqing continued to cut the armored rhinoceros until it was completely dissected. On the side, Lu Qinyue waited with Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, your contract beast is so adorable. Lu Qinyue's beautiful eyes were bright, completely helpless against Baisher's cute appearance. Chapter 263, Can I Hug It? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Baisher. Recalling his previous aggression towards Dong Fangyu, she shook her head. This little guy doesn't like anyone else but me, so he might bite. Oh. Lu Qinyue was somewhat disappointed, but still smiled. He really knows his master. Baisher glanced at Lu Qinyue lazily before happily snuggling into Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder, a bit uneasy. Little Black and Little White glanced at each other. Little Black muttered angrily, "This guy stole our seats. He's a contract beast just like us, but look at the difference in treatment." Little White curled his lips. Baisher was lying happily on their master's shoulders, while they could only pretend to be ornaments on her head. Heart really hurts. Little White clutched his chest and dropped his head. So depressing. You guys are also my contract beasts? Bailey Hongzhuang's clear phoenix eyes were filled with confusion. We never made a contract, have we? Even though Little Black and Little White had been calling her master ever since the primordial chaos ring acknowledged her as its owner, they never actually made a contract together before. Master, when you contracted with the primordial chaos ring, you also contracted with us. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes became even more confused. Even supposing Little Black and Little White's words were correct, wasn't everyone only allowed to contract one demonic beast? I have 3 contract beasts? Little Black eyes curved until they seemed just like crescent moons. Master, you're the owner of the primordial chaos ring, so of course you're different from normal people. There's no limit to the number of contract beasts you can get. As your strength grows, the amount of contract beasts you may get also increases. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes brightened up, although she only found out about this today. Having no limit to her contract beasts really was so convenient. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips stretched into a smile. The only regret she had about her contract with Baisher was his lack of fighting power. It must be known that until your strength reached a certain level, contract beasts were very, very helpful in a tough battle. Since she had missed such a huge assist, she was obviously a bit regretful. But since now that regret no longer existed, she was naturally very happy. Master, Baisher can see other people, so when can us too? Little Black asked miserably, his face filled with hardship. Speaking of that, they were here first, but Baisher had gotten the first victory already. Bailey Hongzhuang felt herself blush with shame. It wasn't that she was unwilling to let the 2 fluffballs to see others, but who told her contract beasts to be so outstanding? So far, no matter if it was Baisher or the 2 fluffballs, she didn't know the species of any of them. Baisher looked like he was just a little puppy, but the 2 fluffballs, they were just too conspicuous. Wait for me to get stronger. Her dark phoenix eyes were serious and determined. Baisher looked completely harmless, so others weren't that envious. But Little Black and Little White were really too special. Not everybody could stay untempted. Little Black and Little White looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's serious face and didn't continue to talk. They understood Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts. Dongfangyu quickly put away the leather. There was nothing else of value left on the armored rhinoceros's body. Its flesh wasn't tasty, so they just left it there. So many demonic beasts rushing out at full power was truly a horrifying scene. If the horde overtook you, the only thing left was death. Gong Shaoqing returned very quickly, his handsome, cold face ashen. Quickly, run. It's a demonic beast tide. Hearing his words, Dongfangyu and Lu Qinyue's faces turned deathly pale. With their cultivation levels, they might not be able to survive the demonic beast tide. Demonic beast tide. Lu Qinyue's face was wan, her voice somewhat unbelieving. This sort of rare, 100-year event was actually happening to them right now. Chapter 264. We're already done with the armored rhinoceros, so let's head back. Dongfangyu's voice was gentle. Originally, we could have stayed in Luoyun Mountains for a while, but since we made a bet, it's better for us to not tarry. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly. Then let's leave early. The 4 no longer stopped, preparing to leave Luo Yun Mountains. But at this moment, countless demonic beasts suddenly let out a loud cry, rising and falling in succession, echoing through all of Luo Yun Mountain. Roar! The loud, terrifying sounds never stopped. The demonic beasts seemed to be provoked and restless, like the pack was in chaos. The floor began to tremble as a strange mood spread through the air. The four's faces all turned grave, sensing something bad. What happened? Lu Qinyue's beautiful eyes were filled with astonishment and worry. She had gone to Luo Yun Mountains many times before, but this was the first time she had encountered such a situation. Gong Shaoqing's face was heavy. You guys wait here. I'll take a look. Gong Deji, be careful. The moment Gong Shaoqing turned to go deep inside the mountain range, Lu Qinyue's voice rang out. Gong Shaoqing nodded. I'll be back very soon. Dongfang, take care of them. Don't worry. Right now, Dongfang Yu's face no longer had his usual teasing smile. His handsome face was prudent and serious, actually giving people an entirely different impression. The demonic beast's howls grew even more fierce, the sounds of their roars intertwining in the sky. Their deafening bellows were almost enough to make Bailey Honghaong's ears bleed. The noises were aggressive, and with so many different roars joining together, it was filled with spirit power. It could be said as a magical song. Bailey Hongzhuang's enchantingly delicate face was serious. Staring at the scene in front of her, a terrible premonition appeared in her heart. She had run into something like this before. It was a demonic beast tide. However, at that time, she was quite strong, so even though it had been a narrow escape, she still wasn't wounded by the demonic beast tide. But right now, she was just a newbie that had only begun to cultivate. Master, it seems like a demonic beast tide. Little White's words smashed apart Bailey Honghaong's hope. This is dangerous. You have to leave Luo Yun Mountains now, or you might lose your life. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with helplessness. It was her first time at Luo Yun Mountains. Her luck was simply too good. A demonic beast tide was the same as all the demonic beasts in the mountains coming together. It was very rare. All the demonic beasts were stampeding madly in the same direction. Anyone in their way would be directly trampled underfoot. The demonic beasts seemed to lose their wisdom and only knew how to charge forwards wildly, no matter what the species. All the demonic beasts on Luo Yun Mountain. How terrifying was that number? So many demonic beasts rushing out at full power was truly a horrifying scene. If the horde overtook you, the only thing left was death. Gong Shaoqing returned very quickly, his handsome, cold face ashen. Quickly, run. It's a demonic beast tide. Hearing his words, Dongfang Yu and Lu Qinyue's faces turned deathly pale. With their cultivation levels, they might not be able to survive the demonic beast tide. Demonic beast tide. Lu Qinyue's face was wan, her voice somewhat unbelieving. This sort of rare, 100-year event was actually happening to them right now. Lu Qinyue only had 4 qi returning pills left. She knew that Gong Shaoqing and Dongfang Yu had both already ran out, so there were only these 4 pills left. Who knew how long they would last? She passed 3 of the pills to Gong Shaoqing and the rest, a flicker of sadness going past Lu Qinyue's watery eyes. Gong Shaoqing and Dongfang Yu's faces were extremely ugly. They thought that the mission would be easy and didn't do a lot of preparation. Nobody thought that they'd end up running into a demonic beast tide. Qinyue, it's better to keep the qi returning pills for yourself. Gong Shaoqing's voice was indifferent but held obvious traces of concern. Chapter 266. Now their probability of surviving was getting smaller and smaller. If the remaining qi returning pills were to be split, probably none of them would survive. Dongfang Yu also didn't accept the pill. He thought the same as Gong Shaoqing. Gong Deji, Dongfang, with my speed, it's even more impossible to survive. You guys have to persevere. Lu Qinyue's eyes were firm and decisive, directly shoving the pills to Gong Shaoqing and Dongfang Yu. Out of the 4, Lu Qinyue was the slowest. If it wasn't for her, everybody's speed would have been a lot faster. She didn't want to implicate everyone. While everyone was trying to evade the chi-returning pills, Bailey Honghang suddenly spoke up. I still have some chi-returning pills too, so you guys don't have to worry. She had never liked being unprepared, so even though the mission they came on today wasn't very dangerous, she still prepared a lot of things just in case. But she never thought that this time, they'd actually have to use it. When they heard Bailey Hongzhuang's voice, the three's eyes all turned to look at her brightly. Bailey Hongzhuang was as calm as usual. As a pill master, the thing she lacked most were pills she could refine. The ingredients needed to refine a chi-returning pill wasn't expensive, and nor was it hard to refine one, so Bailey Hongzhuang had already prepared a lot. Bailey Hongzhuang took out 3 porcelain bottles and handed them out to the other 3. Dongfang Yu opened the bottle and peeked inside. Astonishingly, there were 10 chi-returning pills inside. One person, one bottle. Wouldn't that mean Bailey Hongzhuang had at least 40 chi-returning pills? Weren't you just coming to learn through experience? Why did it seem like you came to sell pills instead? Dongfang Yu really wanted to ask. Up to now, the number of cultivators he had seen wasn't small, but this was the first time he saw a cultivator like Bailey Hongzhuang bring along so many pills. Too rich. Although chi-returning pills were only first-rank pills, because many cultivators wanted them, the price wasn't at all cheap. Bailey Hongzhuang giving them so much at once was really grand. Lu Qinyue blinked, startled. Even as a pill master, she never carried around so many pills. This amount was truly enough to make others shocked. When Gong Xiaoqing's face with facial nerve paralysis saw the pills, a crack appeared on his icy demeanor as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang deeply. Thank you. At such a dangerous moment, with these pills, there was hope. For them, Bailey Hongzhuang's act was extremely significant. Her beautiful face had a brilliant, careless smile. It's fine. If it still isn't enough, I have some more. When the rushing Dongfang Yu heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words, he tripped. This girl. Does she want people to die from anger? Gong Xiaoqing was silent. Coming across such a prodigal and generous teammate, he really didn't know what to say. Lu Qinyue's eyes were thoughtful. As a pill master, she knew a lot about pills. Chi-returning pills were an item that would be fought for by cultivators until there was not even a single one left. To have so many chi-returning pills, what kind of background did you need to have? Or maybe Bailey Hongzhuang herself was a pill master. Lu Qinyue didn't leave out the possibility. After all, she herself was a pill master, so of course, it was possible that Bailey Hongzhuang was one too. Chapter 267. Everybody rushed forward. Behind them, a blood-curdling scream of a cultivator could occasionally be heard. Almost none of the cultivators had prepared enough pills, and their spirit power had long been completely consumed in their hurry to escape. At such a critical time, if they were to slow down even a bit, it'd be the end. Everybody's hearts were filled with dread, afraid that they would be the ones to fall. But even as Bailey Honghang and the rest ran with all their strength, the horde of demonic beasts only got closer and closer. Rumble. A huge sound echoed. Suddenly, the demonic beast tide was only a few hundred away and was approaching at a terrifying speed. They were done for. That thought appeared in everybody's minds. Under the tide of demonic beasts, there was simply nowhere to hide. But at this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest suddenly came upon 2 paths. Take the left road. Gong Xiaoqing immediately chose a direction. A mountain peak was in the middle of the 2 paths. Not even a demonic beast tide could stomp a mountain flat. There was a secret cave on the left road. If they could hide in the cave, they might be able to survive. Gong Xiaoqing pulled Lu Qinyue's hand, quickly running to the left road. The other cultivators had long lost their own judgment, so when they heard Gong Xiaoqing's words, they all immediately ran to the left path as well. If the demonic beasts could be said to have gone from slow to fast, seeing the cultivators in front of them scramble around like chickens, their speed grew even faster. The distance instantly closed by several tens of meters. Now, all the cultivators could clearly sense the demonic beast's breath behind their backs. Dongfang Yu reached out his hand, trying to pull Bailey Hongzhuang back. But because of all the brambles and trees they had to evade while escaping, the distance between them had grown a bit wide. Right now, Bailey Hongzhuang was very close to going on the right road. In her current circumstances, there was no way for her to change paths alone, because if she slowed down even a bit, the only thing left was death. Bailey Hongzhuang also reached out her hand. The only way to get to the left road was by accepting Dong Fongyu's help, but the other cultivators were running as if they were mad, separating Dong Fongyu and Bailey Hongzhuang's outstretched hands. Bailey Hongzhuang. Dong Fongyu's handsome face was pale. They had missed their only opportunity. Missing it would separate them in a way, made them no different from the separate entities of yin and yang. Damn! Bailey Hongzhuang ground her teeth. This group of cultivators was just too hateful. Now the situation was already irreversible. She could only continue on the right road. After reaching the crossroad, the demonic beast tide split up into two groups and continued to give chase. Master, it's dangerous. Little Black's face was serious. There was only a bit more than 5 meters between them and the terrifying demonic beast tide. At this point, even they didn't know what to do. Is there really no way? Her beautiful, delicate face was unwilling and helpless. She absolutely could not accept this kind of death. There's a cliff ahead. Little White suddenly spoke. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes sharpened as her heart slowly came to a decision. Since she would die anyway, it was better to run to the cliff and jump than be trampled underfoot by the demonic beasts. Chapter 268. Bailey Hongzhuang's speed accelerated once more. Since she had already lost her will to survive, she might as well go all out. The originally constantly nearing gap between her and beasts was slowly starting to widen. Almost all the cultivators heard Gong Shaoqing's words and charged into the left lane. The other cultivators were all dead under the demonic beast tide, so Bailey Hongzhuang was the only one still running on the right lane. The precipice was just ahead. A decisive light appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's dark eyes. Right now, she had no other choice. Behind her, the demonic beasts were throwing themselves towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Their mouths opened up wide as cold light reflected off their sharp, bloody teeth. But just as a demonic beast's jaws were about to clamp onto Bailey Hongzhuang's neck, there was suddenly a loud roar. Roar! A young and tender, but fierce suddenly came from Baisher's throat, his small and weak figure forming a huge contrast with the three big, ferocious demonic beasts. It was extremely arrogant, but when Baisher roared, the originally 3 lunging demonic beasts actually stopped, trembling as they looked at him. Under that roar, the mad demonic beast tide actually stopped. Roar! Baisher roared once more, and the originally baffled demonic beasts started to crawl on the floor, their huge, terrifying figures actually shivering on the ground. Bailey Hongzhuang's dark phoenix eyes were filled with shock and amazement, her figure which was about to jump down the cliff abruptly halting. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at the prostrating demonic beasts in front of her. Their reactions seemed as if they were instinctively afraid of Baisher. What kind of joke was this? These huge, terrifying demonic beasts were actually scared of the little guy on her shoulder? Little Black and Little White also looked at Baisher, astonished. They didn't expect that this little guy would actually have such an ability. Baisher lazily stretched before once again snuggling back on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder. He was sleeping, but those repulsive guys just had to disturb him. Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned. It seemed like her previous judgment was wrong. Baisher really wasn't a normal demonic beast, but its deviously cute appearance was simply to deceive. What kind of strength was enough that a single roar was enough to stop a demonic beast tide from moving? Nobody else had the power to but the demonic beasts at the very top of the pyramid. Demonic beasts and humans cultivated differently. For humans, no matter how strong the parents were, their children all still had to cultivate from the beginning. But demonic beasts had a more hierarchical concept. If the species was strong, then the offspring would be strong. Even a newly born demonic beast, with its species' deterrence power, could scare all the other demonic beasts away. Clearly, Baisher's species wasn't simple. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned, even more confused. She knew about almost all of the top demonic beasts, But how come she never saw anything like Baishur? But regardless, none of that mattered. Just knowing Baishur's amazingness was enough. The demonic beast tide was stopped, and she had managed to survive without jumping down a cliff. Thinking of this, Bailey Honghoung couldn't help but sigh with relief. Baishur, let these guys leave. The corners of Bailey Honghoung's lips curled into an enchanting smile. Ordering so many demonic beasts felt so good. Roar! Baishur roared once more. The other demonic beasts glanced quickly at him before running away frantically, as if they had received amnesty. Chapter 279. In a flash, all the demonic beasts flew away in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Baishur, who was on her shoulder. His face was filled with pride and anticipation as he happily rubbed against Bailey Hongzhuang, clearly wanting praise. But Bailey Hongzhuang just smacked Baishur's head, retorting angrily, "You could have just roared and solved everything. You almost let your master jump off a cliff." Now as she remembered how she had given up hope and nearly fell into despair, this little guy could have long fixed everything with just a call. When the eagerly awaiting Baishur was smacked instead of rewarded, his big, watery eyes filled with a misty sheen as his little mouth formed a pout. Its small body curled up in Bailey Hongzhuang's bosom, appearing very pitiful. Even though she knew that the little guy was deliberately acting pitiful, Bailey Hongzhuang no longer had the heart to scold him anymore. Instead of taking out the demonic crystal from the armored rhinoceros to give to Baishur, the tears in his eyes instantly disappeared when he saw the crystal. His eyes shined brightly as he immediately snatched the crystal and began to gnaw on it. Really, this guy truly was best at acting cute. Bailey Hongzhuang put Baishur back onto her shoulders. Her plight was over, but what about Gong Shaoqing and the others? Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to leave, she suddenly heard a small sound. Her eyes turned cold. There was actually somebody here. Bailey Hongzhuang's spirit power surged through her body as she cautiously approached the direction of the sound, prepared to fight. At the back of the mountain, a big boulder blocked her sight. The other person was clearly behind that boulder. "Who's there?" Her cold voice was laced with a warning as she stared at the rock. "Miss, I'm only here to avoid the demonic beast tide." A hoarse, low voice came from behind the boulder, causing Bailey Hongzhuang to frown a little. From her voice, she could tell that he was in a weak state and injured. Life-threateningly injured. Bailey Hongzhuang's dark eyes were sharp. She did not want Baishur's secret to be exposed. Holding the ice-chilling sword, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly sneaked past the boulder. A man was lying on the boulder, black hair pouring down in torrents beside him. His handsome face was like a piece of art carved by the gods themselves, sword-like eyebrows long and straight like a willow. His eminent eyes were deep like a black hole, cold and ruthless. He was wearing a soft black robe, the color deep and inky, propitious clouds embroidered on it with silver thread. It was luxurious yet subdued. The man's robes were slightly loose, revealing his exquisite collarbones and chin, radiating sex appeal. If you looked down just a bit, dark blood had already dyed the robes red. With only a glance, Bailey Honghoung could already tell the injury was very serious. But even in such a situation, the man actually still smiled. His smile was cold and violent, but it was still impossible to deny his handsome face, still filled with charm and fascination. In short, this man was extremely dangerous. Bailey Honghoung's intuition told her that the man wasn't simple and wouldn't allow himself to be touched. "It's better to just leave." Just as Bailey Honghoung turned around to leave, an icy voice rang, "Woman, why don't we make a deal?" A trace of interest flitted past Ma Yunju's dark eyes. When he saw Bailey Honghoung and Baishur, he thought they were rather interesting. Chapter 270. The grand and stately demonic beast king actually acknowledged a mere mysterious Earth middle-stage cultivation woman as its master, and what was even more interesting is that the woman didn't even know the one she had contracted with was the demonic beast king. While he was sizing up Bailey Hongzhuang, He hadn't missed the trace of ruthless killing and tint flicking past her eyes. It seemed like this woman wasn't as simple as she looked. Right now, his injury was very serious. If he could get the demonic Beast King's blood, he'd be able to heal much faster. Not interested, Bailey Honghong continued to walk away without any hint of hesitation. What about if I know who the contract beast sitting on your shoulder is? Bailey Hongzhuang's footsteps paused as she slowly turned to look at Ma Yunju, her penetrating eyes a bit sly. She asked coldly and bluntly, "Conditions?" "The little guy's blood." Ma Yunju's voice was indifferent, but then added, "To treat my injury." When Ma Yunju brought up Baisher's blood, Bailey Hongzhuang had already decided to refuse. But then when she heard that it was to treat his wound, she became a little hesitant. "How about I cure your wound and you tell me Baisher's identity?" Ma Yunju's eyes flashed as he replied, "Woman, aren't you afraid that I'll kill you after you treat me? Don't forget that your injury is under my control." Bailey Hongzhuang's face was indifferent, her bright, crystal-clear eyes filled with wisdom and self-confidence. Although she was definitely inferior to this man in terms of strength, he also wasn't her opponent when it came to medical techniques. Her simply reply actually hit a cold front. Ma Yunju glanced at Bailey Honghong thoughtfully. "It's a deal." Bailey Honghong slowly kneeled next to Ma Yunju. "Speak?" Ma Yunju's eyes were a bit bright. Up to now, he had never seen a woman dare to be so close to him. And the most interesting thing was that even though this woman was so weak, she was still brave enough to face him confidently. He was always an existing feared by everybody, so talking to a woman this closely was a new experience. "The little guy on your shoulder is the demonic Beast King." When she heard him speak, Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes lit up, a wave of shock and amazement washing over her heart. She looked at the king character on Baisher's forehead and understood. Demonic Beast Kings were the kings of demonic beasts, classified as a mythical race. Demonic Beast Kings and other demonic beasts of the mythical race were a mystery and held power acknowledged by all the other demonic beasts. Also, there could only be one demonic beast king at a time. Only when the previous generation dies could the next generation be born. Even though she also never once saw what a demonic beast king looked like, she hadn't expected that this seemingly powerless, cute little guy would actually be the demonic beast king. She didn't doubt Ma Yunju's words at all. This was the most probable answer. Ma Yunju watched Bailey Honghong's expressions change. It seemed like that was actually in her expectations. Gong Shaoqing and the others managed to successfully hide in the cave. Watching the demonic beasts zip by unceasingly outside, the three's hearts were all shocked. Demonic beast tides were truly too terrifying. Even though they heard about its dangers before, actually experiencing it made them clearly understand that their previous thoughts were far too simple. Lu Qinyuet deeply sighed, her beautiful face still pale. This feeling of surviving the calamity truly made one feel endlessly grateful. Chapter 271. Check back soon. Such a terrifying demonic beast tide. If they hadn't luckily managed to find a cave to hide in, they long would have been trampled to death. Dongfang Yu's face was extremely difficult to describe. His eyes filled with a constrained fury. Bailey Hongzhuang. It was only one step. If he had managed to grab Bailey Hongzhuang back then, the current situation wouldn't be like this. Gong Shaoqing's eyes also revealed his self-blame and unhappiness. If it wasn't for that guy disrupting things, how would Bailey Hongzhuang have sunk into such a dangerous situation? Although they didn't know what would happen on the right side road, they could already foresee what would happen from here. Bailey Hongzhuang had no chance of survival. It was their first time taking Bailey Hongzhuang out for a mission, and the teachers entrusted her to their care, but they had allowed Bailey Hongzhuang to lose her life. Lu Qinyue's face was pale, her slim, fair hands covering her mouth as her eyes turned misty. They were just hunting demonic beasts together a few hours ago. Nobody expected that in such a short time, Bailey Hongzhuang would lose her life. Dongfang Yu could only feel hard to describe pain and fury burning in the bottom of his stomach with no way to vent it. This was the first time he experienced such a feeling. It was strange but suffocating. Damn it! Dongfang Yu grabbed the collar of the elated man next to him, directly pushing the man into the air. If it wasn't for this man running between them midway, Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't have died. Bang! Dongfang Yu ruthlessly punched the man's face, sending the man flying several meters away. Panic appeared on the man's face. He immediately understood why Dongfang Yu had hit him. Although his heart was somewhat sullen, he didn't dare to say anything. After all, Dongfang Yu was just too strong. Plus, it was him who was in the wrong. At such a critical juncture, he only wanted to save his own life. So even if he could choose all over again, he would still pick the same option. Bang, bang, bang. Dongfang Yu continued to punch the man's body, treating him as if he was a punching bag. But even though he did that, he was still unable to vent the suffocating pain and anger burning in his heart. The man was badly battered and spouting blood, but could only receive it passively. Gong Shaoqing just stared at the man coldly, finally also sending the man flying into a rock with a kick. Clearly, Gong Shaoqing's heart was also unpleasant. Lu Qinyue's eyes were filled with shock and confusion when she saw Gong Shaoqing's kick. She had almost never seen Gong Shaoqing do such a thing before. It was also the first time she had seen Dongfang Yu act so emotionally. As cultivators, they never really experienced the feeling of losing a comrade. But still, Dongfang Yu had never been as angry as today. Gong Deji, Dongfang. Hongzhuang's accident was something none of us thought would happen, Lu Qinyue comforted. But Gong Shaoqing and Dongfang Yu didn't reply. They clearly didn't care the slightest bit about Lu Qinyue's consultation. I hope Bailey Hongzhuang will be all right. Dongfang Yu's expression was sincere and earnest. Even though he knew the probability was extremely small, he still held a gleam of hope. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the wound going across almost half of Ma Yunju's body, astonishment flashing in her eyes. This wound, if it was just the slightest bit deeper, Ma Yunju definitely won't even have a single chance of surviving. But even like this, if Ma Yunju continued to dilly-dally, he'd be throwing away his life. The wound was faintly black. Ma Yunju had been poisoned. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.